Hi, this is Reilly, the internet's not strictly music review music nerd. The app is precisely the type of technology that Eno must have been waiting for. His long-term interest in self-generating music and pictures, their playful and openly accessible interactivity, their audio-visual clarity, as well as their potential to generate ambient works, suit Eno down to the ground. And it's mostly the apps he has made with the software developer Peter Chilver that I'll be reviewing here, starting with Bloom. This was their first app, dating back to the early days of app technology in 2008, and which you are now watching the recently released high-definition version of. You can choose to simply listen to it, or, much more fun, interact with it. You change the mood, put it on a timer to turn it off, because otherwise it won't, and, as you can see, it's very pretty. One drawback is that, as well as their other apps, it's only available on Apple devices, but hey, now this is official. PCs and Android are for pussies! What I find particularly interesting about Bloom and the other apps is that it's self-generating, which is to say that what you hear and see is constantly changing. So unlike a film or music on CD, it's not a question of experiencing the same piece repeatedly. It's more a choice of colours, textures and phrases interacting to create a certain mood. Trope's a more painterly app on which you can vary the type of strokes. It strongly reminds me of the paintings of the late English painter Albert Irvine. So if you also love this app, do check out his paintings. It's sort of Jackson Pollock but in pink. I love using Trope when cooking. I'll get it in motion, and in between preparing food, I'll wander over to the screen to do a few more strokes. I love running my finger over it. Scape's a more complex app, available only on iPad, and it was one of the major reasons why I bought an iPad to begin with, which is ironic, as I don't tend to use it that much. Here you build up textures, shapes and sounds, which you can then keep and replay another time. But as it's just as self-generating as the other apps, it will never look or sound exactly the same twice. One problem I have with Scape is that as I studied painting, I don't find the shapes and textures that thrilling, to be honest. And as for the music it generates, Eno himself defines ambient music as something you can have tinkering in the background, but if you choose to listen to it, it's actually surprisingly interesting. But on Scape, I'd question that. Reflection at €33.99 is pretty dear, and once I uploaded it, was disappointed to find that it wasn't in any way interactive. But I suspect it's so expensive because every season it's updated, and that takes work. And I must say, I love walking my dog in the neighbourhood, tinkling as I do so, much to the bewilderment of my neighbours. Hypnotize was developed in collaboration with Coldplay, based on the principles of Bloom, and as you can see, is equally charming. Apparently it should be magical when playing it alongside them playing Hypnotize live. Well, isn't that a bit fanciful? At any rock concert I've ever been to, I wouldn't hear a bomb going off, never mind ambient music tinkling from my iPhone. And here's a lesser-known Eno piece called Grid, one of a cluster of collaborations under the Audio Palette app. I recently wanted to load this onto my iPad, but couldn't find it anywhere on the net to download, so it may now be defunct or deleted. Which brings us to 77 million paintings. This is a computer software that utilises the screensaver to generate continually changing images and music. What a great idea! The only bummer is that it's never been updated to Intel, so unless you have a Mac which is made of rock and straw, you can't fucking use it. And if you are listening, Mr. Eno, with respect, it's a tad ironic that you've benefited greatly from Apple over the years and don't release an Intel version of this, because I'm sure there are a lot of people, including me, who are waiting for it. But then again, what you are now looking at and listening to isn't by Brian Eno at all, but by yours truly, so there. So instead of grumbling about 77 million paintings not being available on Intel, and you have a Mac, you do already have enough software such as iMovie, Photos and GarageBand to produce something of your own. If you think you have to be a great filmmaker, photographer or musician to do this, remember that Eno is conventionally none of these things. All he's done is realise more than most that the greatest creative skills aren't necessarily technical, but to apply imagination to a technology. Eno once said that he'd visited the Disney studios in America and felt that their technology was so impressive, but how they used it was so depressive. As a young man, I found photography, filmmaking and multi-track recording prohibitively expensive, so it continually astounds me when creative types turn their noses up at such software as Photoshop, Final Cut and Logic. As always, I thank you for listening, value any comments, and Brian Eno's apps. I'm really looking forward to the next one. Maybe it's called 77 Million Paintings. Till next time.